Hello there and welcome to another video from myself, Stevo, just reflecting on today's games. Well, all of two. Tottenham 0, Aston Villa 2, and the game that's just ended. Nottingham Forest 1, Chelsea 1, as predicted by myself. I pride myself in my predictions. That game was terrible. That game really did sum up why I'm not interested in any Chelsea assets, but it hasn't stopped me getting a certain player. So whether you're aware or not, or whether anybody actually cares, which I know for a fact there will be people that care, John Harris, the gap between the hosts of this channel, myself, Jason, Dan, whenever he can be bothered to come on, is 3 points between Jason and Dan. Because of today, the fact that Kulusevski has picked up a bit of a niggle, it meant that he didn't play today, and it means that Andreas comes off the bench for me, which is 5 points. Which is ironic because no one will know this. I'm going to reveal it now. So on whatever day it was, whenever the deadline was, Friday, wasn't it? Yeah, Friday. As I was coming back from London, as I was coming down from London to Devon, I thought, I wonder if there's anybody streaming right now. Well, there was people streaming, of course. But I was aware that essentially Black Box were doing their show. And I thought, do you know what? I can't be bothered to listen to any more Office podcast. I've already listened to 3 hours worth of it. I'm done. I just want to hear something that's a bit light, and I know they're going to be at least previewing the game week, so I just thought I'd listen into Black Box. I had them on for an hour, and they were going through their stats. Thankfully, nothing too detailed. And they were talking about Andreas versus Martinelli. And I was thinking, I do expect that game between Brighton and Arsenal to be tight. I am expecting Fulham to have a lot of fun against Southampton. They're giving us these statistics about the fact that Martinelli has only had 0.31 shots, attacking returns, whatever, potential assists in games away from home or over the past 6 games. You've got Andreas, who's 0.632 potential attacking returns across the last 6. I'm thinking, well, based on my prediction and everything, let's just put Andreas in. Fuck it. At least he'll be a small differential on Jason. So I genuinely, while I was stuck on the M5, hit the old switch of Andreas in for Martinelli. And I'm still listening to the show, and I'm thinking, Stephen, what the fuck are you doing? Martinelli, whatever you may think, he plays for Arsenal. Andreas, by the way, I was literally just stuck on the M5. I'm looking for from his attacking point of view. A majority of his attacks have come from, or his attacking returns have come from away from home. So I'm thinking, I'm panicking here. It's amazing how ridiculous when you take fantasy football seriously, how it takes over your thought processes. So I'm just thinking, what am I doing? Swap it out. So I did Martinelli in as what was officially done. And I'm continuing listening to Black Box, and they're still giving out these predictions and everything, as is saying that Arsenal are going to find it tough. I'm predicting us to beat them. And Mark's like, yeah. And I'm thinking, oh, God, actually, fuck it. I'm going to do Andreas. Without realising that actually I was about 3 minutes behind on the stream. And my clock on my car is 5 minutes behind. So I assumed or thought that I still had time to change my team to bring Andreas in for Martinelli. of course, the game had updated or started to update, and I'm thinking. So of course, the following day comes along. I see, initially had seen Andreas had scored. I'm just like, for fuck's sake, this is absolutely unbelievable. And even Podner was on the show, wasn't he? And he was starting Andreas as well. I'm thinking, what does Podner know that I don't either? And like I say, Andreas had scored, but then it turned into the fact that James Ward-Prowse had actually scored and all this. But whatever, the point being, Andreas got the assist. And I'm like, But that was before the Arsenal game. Of course, Martinelli comes along, pops up with an assist, pops up with a goal. And I'm just like, thank fuck for that. It didn't quite backfire. And then, of course, the game updates. We see the points difference between me and Jason and Dan, or specifically me and Jason. I've overtaken him and all this nonsense. And I'm like, right, over to you, Kulusevski. And, of course, the news comes out he won't be playing. And I'm expecting that to be a high-scoring game. What happens? Now, I didn't see the match because I was out with family. I come home knowing that I'd heard the initial 25 minutes of the game, that it was supposed to be an absolutely dire. Tottenham had nothing about them whatsoever. So I get home, and because of Jason's tweet about Kulusevski and Andreas, I was like, oh yeah, good point. Tottenham played. What was the score in that? Wow. Or as Booker T says, wow, wow. What the hell, Kofi Kingston? Just ridiculous. Losing 2-0 at home to Aston Villa. Now people will be saying, well, Aston Villa have turned it around. Since Unai Emery's come in, they've won 4 out of 5. The only team that lost against is Liverpool. And even then they played really well. Seems to have turned it around. Tottenham, on the other hand, I don't know what's going on. Apparently Kane was completely anonymous, as ever. Surprised he didn't get a penalty. But they're apparently absolutely anonymous. I did write a cheeky tweet at Total Stevo. I just said if only Kulusevski had played, it may have been different. Well, I was only... even in a high-scoring game, which I thought it may be, I predicted Kulusevski to get an assist. So really, him not playing and Andreas coming off the bench with 5 points is it's just basically balanced it out. But I've just watched the whole game. I watched about 75 minutes worth of the game. And Jesus Christ, that game between Nottingham Forest and Chelsea did nothing for me. You know, occasionally I'll go on the Elite FPL Twitter, and you've got the old, no disrespect if anybody's watching this that does this, but the old FPL Twitter Tourette's that people have, and I'm just like, this is why I mute everybody on FPL, because all they're doing is just revealing all their fucking thought processes. It's just like, get a fucking grip of yourself. Talk about it in your bloody videos or your streams or whatever, but anyhow, that's beside the point. And all these people are saying is, well, you know, this is the game that decides who I bring in. And then throughout the game, it's, this player isn't doing particularly well. Sterling's done nothing for me. Mason Mount's being quiet. Havertz, what is the point of me even bringing him in? I'm not going to bother bringing in a Chelsea defender, as they've both got Man City and Fulham who both can score goals. And all this Tourette's just... There's your thumbnail. And there's me just watching the game going, well, Chelsea are pretty poor. They can't score goals. Defensively, they're sound. I think if the game did end 1-0 to Chelsea, I don't think that would have been a bad result in the sense of, or an unfair result. Nottingham Forest had a few opportunities, nothing that really troubled Kepa. Obviously, there was that Gibbs-White moment where it came off the crossbar and came outwards, but I saw nothing where I was like blown away by Nottingham Forest, blown away by Chelsea. Still brought in Mason Mount, Jason. So I'm just sticking with the plan, which was to get rid of Kulusevski and Martial and bringing in Mitrovic and Mason Mount for Kulusevski. Now, I have begrudgingly got rid of Martial. I do think that he does quite well against Fulham. Yeah, he's going to be playing Fulham. When he plays against Bournemouth, I'm predicting a pretty comfortable victory for Man U, 2-0, 3-0. I've got it as 2-0. But I think 2-0, 3-0 to Man United. They don't concede goals. I'd like to think that Wan-Bissaka plays that game, because if not, I could be down to two defenders in Trippier and Bueno, because there's a small possibility that Robertson doesn't play, but there's still no news about that. I'd like to think Wan-Bissaka keeps his place. He hasn't done anything wrong. In fact, he played quite well. In fact, there's no quite well. He played well yesterday against Wolves. So why Ten Hag would drop him, there's no reason for it. I can already hear someone writing in the comments, yeah, but Dalot's in training. And, well, Ten Hag's going to just get rid of a player that's, along with three others, helping them keep clean sheets to accommodate one defender that's been out with injury. You know, slowly bring him back in the FA Cup, maybe bring him on as a substitute in the Bournemouth game. You don't need to flaming start him, but that's by the by. And the reality of the situation is that, look, Mitrovic up against Leicester, who concede goals, up against Chelsea that concede goals. I think that he may be on par with Martial coming out of this. I do think this double game week, if I could do it for free, Mitrovic into Martial, I would have done that and left the team as it is. I would have just kept Kulusevski, because apparently he's only going to be out for today, depending on scans. But I have no interest in this double game week at all. But because of this chess game now, the small margins between me and Jason, and the fact that he said that he can't bring in a Chelsea player, it's a tiny advantage to me. Only a small one. I still don't think it's that much going to make much of a difference. Maybe 2 or 3 points. Because I'm hoping on luck that Mason Mount gets some form of attack in return versus Man City or Fulham. Unlikely, because history suggests that Man City are going to win 2-0. In the Fulham game, it's suggesting Chelsea will win 2-0. So Mason Mount may get something in that. But really, it's just all hope. It's just a luxury, because I had two free transfers, and I just thought, well, I can only get Mitrovic in by getting rid of another player. Well, I could have got rid of Reece James for Akanji, do the transfer a week early, but no need. Crystal Palace, Tottenham away at Crystal Palace. Tough fixture. Again, because it's Tottenham, I expect them to come through. But Crystal Palace at home, honestly, I would not be surprised if they got something out of the game. And if Kulusevski is ruled out, then, I've got that extra player. Again, I don't know what Jason's doing. But he's definitely going to have Mitrovic, which is the player I've got. Albeit Jason's made 0.3 on him. I mean, it's ridiculous, really, that Mitrovic has gone up by 0.3. I think this is the quickest this season. I think it's the first player this season that's gone up by 0.3 in a week. In fact, off the top of my head, I think Mitrovic may be the first player in quite a while that has gone up by 0.3 in a week. In a week. I can't think of a player in such a short space. In fact, it's not even over a week. It's been over just a few days. He's risen by 0.3, which is crazy. So I've had to pay the 7.1. So I'm going to have Andreas Mitrovic. I am now benching Martinelli, because I have to. I mean, Darwin away at Brentford. Then you've got Martinelli at home to Newcastle. That's going to be, well, that is quite literally like who would have thought this, Kev? A top of the table clash between Newcastle and Arsenal. I mean, I can see that being like well, because it's at the Emirates, Arsenal are going to win 2-1, 1-0, something like that. It's going to be an exciting game. I think it's going to be quite end-to-end. I think Newcastle are going to have a lot of fun there. they're going to have a bit of fun. I think they're going to express themselves a bit. So, yeah, maybe Arsenal can do that. So there's a bit of a risk playing Andreas over Martinelli. But as Andy Let's Talk FPL says, you can't not play a double game week player. So I'll have 4. Kepa, which Jason's got. Mitrovic, that Jason's got. Andreas, that Jason's got. And Mason Mount. Now, depending on what Jason does, I don't know. But Jason's differentials on me now are Akanji, Almiron. I think it's them 2 only, I think. And then depending on whatever combination of the defenders he does. But because he's got Robertson, he may get rid of Robertson. He may do. But as it stands right now, my captaincy is on Mitrovic. I think Haaland, whatever you want to call him. Yeah, it's Haaland, Steve-O. He's actually come out and said it's Haaland. He'll score against Chelsea. I think it'd be tight though, like a 1-0, 2-0 versus Chelsea. I don't think Chelsea are going to trouble them at all here. Yeah, Haaland can get both goals. He can do, but Mitrovic in 2 fixtures where he's against 2 teams that concede, I'd like to think will get something. It's a tough one. We got, 24 hours to go. I can't believe it's game week tomorrow. The next game weeks tomorrow start with Brentford at home to Fulham, which I did say could be tight. Actually, it could be quite open. Now, funnily enough, the history, they've only played each other twice. The game last season at Brentford ended 3-3, which is quite apt, really, because the last 3 games at Brentford have been 0-0, 1-1, 2-2. Will it be another 3-3? And then 4-4, then 5-5, then 6-6. Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. Bilal. But I think it could be quite open. That's why I begrudgingly got rid of Martial. It's such a good fixture at home to Bournemouth. But another reason is because they've got Arsenal and Man City next. That's the thing for me, even though ironically Martial scored against Man City. Did he do it twice? Do that twice? He did that twice. Or he at least scored anyway. And then obviously Man United beat Arsenal. But it's away at Arsenal. And like I said, Martial away from home. Not great. So Martial 2 home fixtures against Man United and Bournemouth. I'd like to think Mitrovic comes out on top over the next 2-3 games. I'd like to think. Ironically, Kulusevski's then got a double game week, but against Man City and Arsenal, whatever will be. But certainly, I'm just going to stick with the plan. My next moves, as I've stated, are going to be... It's probably going to be for a -4 because I've got to get Kevin De Bruyne in. However, maybe a possibility, and then this is when it plays into Jason's hands. I could get rid of Salah. For Kevin De Bruyne. But again, this is just me speaking on a Sunday evening in my bedroom, back at home, for a few minutes. And no, I think that just sticking with the plan of Mason Mount out for Kevin De Bruyne, Darwin out for Greenwood, and then Akanji in for Reece James. Play the 4-4-2 or a 3-5-2, depending on how I go about it. With again the same team as Jason, it's quite fascinating. I mean, John Harris wrote a simple piece saying, "Imagine if it came to the final game week regarding you, Dan, and Jason being so tight together." And I always love doing this channel in the sense of the rivalries. I think what makes our channel unique, and Geordie Kev wrote a Twitter, DM'd us. He wrote a interesting DM to us about some Newcastle podcast / get the slash in there, YouTube videos that he watches of Newcastle fan team stuff, and I'm probably going to address that on a members video. But certainly, what I love about this channel is talking about the rivalries. And I just put a comment to John, and I just said, look, mate. I just said, look, I love the rivalry between myself, Jason, and Dan. I think is what makes content really, really good. I always look back at when we first started this channel, when we started uploading these videos, and me and Jason were in these genuine conversations. This is what I love. This is why I love doing these video formats with Jason, is because we just get to talk. We're not, again, this is no disrespect to doing streams and the people that are in chat, because we value the individuals that participate, but we don't get distracted. So me and Jason can talk bits of tactics and everything. And certainly, the conversation pieces are going to be around moving forward with what me and Jason are doing. And, because now I'm blocking Jason off, what does he do does he do an aggressive standpoint? I don't know. I don't have a clue. It's just going to be fascinating moving forward. And as I said to John, for me, I just want to keep going up the tables, trying to get better and better in the Members League, the Rivals League, the YouTube Chat League, because you guys in those leagues are just freaks of nature. The likes of Uncle Juicy TV, the likes of Harry that's top of the Members League, Winnersh. It's just ludicrous. And I know that I'm never going to be able to challenge the top end of those guys. But certainly I want to put in a performance each season where I'm able to at least stand proud and go, I kind of competed. Admittedly last year with John, I think it was 1 point between me and John at the end. I think John ended up in the Members League. I think it was 5th or 6th, and I was 1 point behind. 1 point behind John. So this season's just proving to be very, very tough, because all the popular assets are coming through, and just people like Jason or myself or whatever are able to pick these particular players. It's just a shame that my team value is literally 0, in the sense of I've got nothing in the bank, whereas Jason's team value has skyrocketed. He may not have it. I don't know how much he's got in the bank itself, but certainly as a team value. What did he say to Vince the other day? His team value is 104.2, whereas mine's 102.1 or something like that. So he's got a 2 million value in his team. But that's because I didn't say this in the video yesterday, when we first started the season, I wasn't template United. I was, and this is the point I was trying to make about Saka, is that I didn't get Martinelli and I had Saka, because he's the crucial cog to Arsenal, which has proven over the past several weeks. Even though Martinelli's still ticking over, that's the key, he's ticking over, whereas Saka, I believe, from a points perspective, is outperforming him. Only just. And then you've got Odegaard. But back then, the likes of Almiron, Mitrovic, Martinelli, who else was there back then? I can't even think now who the template players were. Ben White, the Didcot, Yateley. But the reality of the situation, I didn't jump on any of these bandwagon players because I don't think I was being cocky or anything. It was just the fact that we're being Mr. Know-It-All. It's just, like I say, I pride myself on my predictions, and I can't. It's like James says on Planet FPL, once you pick your team, you don't know how the players are going to perform on the day. But we also can't predict the fact that these players are just continuously bringing in the goals and the assists and the clean sheets, and just in general the points, where it's just so consistent. I've never known an FPL season like it. And it is those tiny little differentials with the likes of, say, Uncle Juicy TV, top of the YouTube league, where he had the likes of Sanchez last week, that penalty save. Certain individuals with the likes of Odegaard. It's crazy to think that these tiny little differentials are the building blocks to have a more successful mini league season or over a ranked season or whatever. But yeah, I think moving forward, myself, Jason, and Dan, whatever we do with our teams is going to be absolutely fascinating. It's like Jason said, it's going to come down to captaincy picks as well. You know, does Jason go Mitrovic or does he go with Haaland? Does he go with Andreas? I don't think he does. I don't think he risks it. I don't think Jason's going to sabotage his team over what. I think just for Jason it's going to be those slightly different transfers that he chooses to do. And obviously the further we go on to the season, the more it is going to be cloak and dagger, and it's going to be like, Christ, I'm gonna have to find out via the deadline stream, lastminute.com, or after the deadline's passed, what Jason has done. And vice versa. Jason's not going to find out what I'm going to do until after the deadline and so on. But like I say, I'm normally quite transparent with what I do. It's, like I said yesterday, I'm probably going to be doing Mount and Mitrovic in for Kulusevski and Martial, and that's what's happened. You know, I can build a case on why I begrudgingly got rid of them and everything, but you know the risks are there. So yeah. Anyhow, I'm going to clear off because I'm starting to waffle on now. And yeah, as ever, thanks for watching, thanks for listening in, thanks for the. It's not even feedback. Thanks for the thank you. Happy New Year. God, honestly, in this manager's WhatsApp group, I thought you were stopping, Steve. In this manager's WhatsApp group, I'm part of just every manager sending in a GIF. It's just like, you don't care. You don't give a shit. Praising each manager. All these people putting in New Year's Eve. It's like, hold a minute here. All you do is flame and slag off that manager and that manager and that manager and that manager. All you do is moan and groan in the flaming managers WhatsApp group. And all of a sudden it's, I hope everybody has a wonderful New Year. You don't give a shit. What's that got to do with FPL? Nothing. On that note, cheers everyone. See you later.